Hey everyone, welcome to a long overdue episode of the Hardware Podcast. My name is Jackson Danner alongside my good friend Omar. Today we're going to be previewing the HBCU Legacy Bowl, which usually we try and throw out a couple All-Star game previews between the Shrine Bowl, Senior Bowl, the New American Bowl. We missed out on doing that. But if there's one to do, Omar, if only because it's so undercovered in the media, it's the HBCU Legacy Bowl. Which hopefully is going to gain a little more interest from scouts, if only because no HBCU players were invited to the combine. I feel, yes, it's a negative thing that we have no HBCU players in the combine, but I do think that, hey, maybe that top tier HBCU talent that we usually see an invite or two thrown out there to Indianapolis, maybe scouts will be forced to come to NOLA, New Orleans, just to get their eyes on some elite HBCU talent, as well as a bunch of other guys that hopefully get at least a couple tryouts. And I'm sure they're scouts from, a lot of guys put the CFL and UFL logos in their draft declarations as well. So hopefully scouts from all over, all different leagues coming in. But Omar, how are you doing? How's the baby? Are we excited for this game?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm pretty excited for this one, and I think so. For all the reasons that you mentioned, Jackson, this game's huge. There's no opt-outs, honestly. I'm not sure if you were watching the Senior Bowl live, Jackson, but I know I told you. I know I sent you a text after.
Lots of opt-outs. Yeah.
Yeah, huge amount of opt-outs. I don't think any of these guys are going to opt out because a lot of these guys have something to prove, not just because they're playing for HBCUs, but in general, this is just sort of how the ecosystem's kind of working now with more smaller school players, like where it's like, I think I heard like a well-publicized quote from an anonymous scout where it's like, if you don't transfer up, quote unquote, to like Power Four, even FBS, like there's doubts about whether like you have the talent at all, which is sad, honestly, because in this day and age, like you can still be found. And I just think about just alumni that have played in this game, like Joshua Williams, from Fayetteville State, fourth round pick out of D2 Fayetteville State, still going strong for the Chiefs, contributing on defense, got 2 rings with the Chiefs. Jacoby Durant, as a Niners fan, that man is a pretty one of the banes of my existence. With them playing for the Rams, continuing to start, so there's plenty of great talent. But yeah, with this game though, it's just great because also too, like this is one of the only stages in general from a small school perspective that's still left, at least for this year, for these guys to kind of shine and show what they have for the scouts. Because the Hula Bowl had a couple guys from Division Two or FBS Division Two, NAIA, you name it. Shrine Bowl had a couple. Senior Bowl had a couple as well. The American Bowl had more than a few. So the chances are kind of dwindling because if you look at the landscape, the Hula Bowl might not exist next year. But if you've seen some of the stories, some of the overtures with that game, the Podium All-Star Bowl, which is pretty much one of the main All-Star games for smaller school players. That one did not happen this year, might not happen next year, to be honest with you. And then you had the Tropical Bowl, the FCS Bowl, run by that was run last year by the late great Michael Corti, may rest in peace. They had trouble getting off the ground this year. So if you're looking at a small school player from an HBCU, the Legacy Bowl, the Dream Bowl are the only games right now that are really all in on inviting players. So I'm excited for this one, and it's on NFL Network too. So it's just a chance for a lot of these schools. Good recruiting opportunity for these schools with their stickers
100%.
on the back of the helmet for the Legacy Bowl. Even though they're not wearing their helmets, the on-screen graphics and the stickers on the back will show what schools they play for.
Yeah, that's one of my main complaints is that no school helmet. It's like, what are we doing? Come on, let's wear that. I think it looks so much better. Yeah, no, I completely agree. Also, like, not obviously the highest HBCU is in the FCS, so we're highlighting, if you mean FCS by small school, but also we're highlighting like D2 HBCUs, right? Plenty of guys in the lower level of even HBCU ball. They're playing this. I'm highlighting. This is going to be a giveaway of one of my players I'm talking about, but I'm highlighting a quarterback from Johnson C. Smith University, right? Some people listening might not even know that university exists. And guess what? He's going to be playing quarterback on NFL Network on Saturday. And not only is the game on NFL Network, if you're a regular viewer, as I'm sure you are, Omar, just like I am. I'm teasing Omar. He's not a regular viewer of NFL Network. They've been highlighting the game all week on I almost said Total Access, my gosh, on the Insiders and all their daytime shows. Been highlighting practices with Steve Wyche and Bucky Brooks on the scene. So Yeah, it's great the exposure that not only HBCUs from all levels are getting highlighted. So you're on mute, buddy.
Yeah, no, exactly. There's some schools here that that aren't part of your traditional allotment, or I guess like conference alignment in terms of HBCUs. Like looking at a couple guys from Florida Memorial, NAIA program, not much exposure there too. I know we're going to talk a bunch about Florida Memorial, so hopefully the fans out there for the Lions get to see this and are thrilled with the exposure we're talking about. But like you said, a quarterback playing on NFL Network, even if any of these quarterbacks or running backs or whoever, even if the players in this game representing these schools never play it down in pro football, this is just an amazing way to end a college career, which I think I'm in the camp where we have lost the plot for all-star games, where these are a celebration of great college careers. Like pro football is great and all, it should be something to aspire to, but it shouldn't be the end game. Like the college game should be the end game. Like a nice college career should be something to be proud of. There should be no thoughts of, I guess, of dreams deferred or anything. These college all-star games should be celebrating these young men. I mean, I just wish I wish that more of these games took the pressure off these young men and just celebrated their careers. So, but this game too, like, I mean, I just love that it's the last game of the year, the last fall game of the year. I love that it's got that like standalone spot. It's probably got the
Agreed.
most spot.
Agreed. We're not going to see another game of another college game until Ireland, right?
Yeah.
So no, I completely agree. One thing that I do, I'm not disagreeing with you, Omar, but I will say that this is the only game that recognizes that the league might not be the end all be all. I feel like you kind of have to, since you have so many guys that are all in FCS or below. But like, there's the career fair, right? That they're recognizing that fact just by having a career fair. That like, hey, you might not make it at football at the next level, and like no other All Star game is really like touching, conveying that. I feel like you follow some of the lower level All Star games closer than I do, but at least that's my impression of it. That like, hey, they're showing guys how to be a professional in other areas of life and other careers, which is pretty cool. So, but also giving them all the tools to maybe become professionals in the National Football League, right? By having their own HBCU combine, by having scouts out there all week. By having really good coaching staffs put together, right, to develop these guys. So you kind of get the best of both. But Omar, we'll go ahead and go into previewing some of our favorite players from this game. Kind of the format that we're talking about is highlighting at least one or two guys in each position group, regardless of if they're Team Gaither or Team Robinson. And maybe also along the way talking about some of these programs that are being represented that maybe don't always get the highlight, even when we're talking HBCU ball. But we'll start out with the quarterbacks. Omar, my first one, as I alluded to earlier, is Kelvin Durham, the quarterback from Johnson C. Smith University, home of the Golden Bulls. He was a transfer from Fort Valley State. Believe it or not, there's not a ton of tape out there for Johnson C. Smith. But I did watch a lot of his game versus Benedict College a couple years ago. One thing that struck me was Kelvin's best throws of that game were outside the numbers. That's not something you see with a lot of guys, right? A lot of times we see, these really accurate, well-timed, either checkdowns or slants or anything like that. No, like his best throws were you're getting pressure from the edge. He steps up in the pocket and then hits the running back on a wheel route that's already maybe 18 or 20 yards down the field, which I think is pretty cool. So, and his stats back that up. In 2025, he was had 213 completions out of 328 attempts, threw for just shy of 3,000 yards, had 26 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Now, at 26 touchdowns, you might think maybe he's a pocket passer just throwing the ball. No, he had 9 rushing touchdowns this year, too, including 3 against Valdosta State, the obligatory hardware Valdosta State mention. But the two comps, and I don't have too many comps in this podcast, so don't worry, but like the two names that popped into my head, and neither of them are that accurate, but you just see like maybe a glimpse or two, is college Jamarcus Russell, albeit he is much smaller, and a less casual version of Cam Ward. There were a couple plays where he had that pocket presence of Cam Ward. He wasn't flat-footed like Cam was last year, or I should say 2 years ago if I'm referring to his senior year in college. But yeah, those are the two names that just like briefly popped into my head.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too with Calvin Durham too, and I think this is something you see with all the quarterbacks or most of the quarterbacks that are in this class. It's like, I mean, great pocket presence. The arm talent's there if you're comparing him to college, Jamarcus Russell, but like Durham as well. Like you look at the stats, you look at some of the tape that you can find on him. Like he runs the ball. It's a weapon, but it's not his number one go to. So like that's what
Yeah,
I want.
exactly.
Someone who can climb the pocket, someone who can do all that stuff and make the throws too. Like really impressive stats, not just at JCSU but also at Fort Valley State too. Just throughout his career, so you've got plenty of experience. Like really,
Another quarterback that was kind of like that, as far as like using his legs as a tool, but he wasn't defaulting to it too quickly. I saw a little bit of that in Noah Bodden too, the quarterback from Edward Waters that's playing on the opposite side for Team Robinson. You would see that where he's elusive, but he doesn't take off too early, which is really nice. Omar, can I squeeze in one more thing about a couple of
absolutely, absolutely.
I just think it's funny. We have 6 total quarterbacks, right? 2 of them are left-handed. You never see that. I feel like Walker Harris, the quarterback from North Carolina Central, and Cameron Ransom from Bethune-Cookman. So I just think that's funny.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I don't really know the stats on left-handed quarterbacks. I feel like I thought as a casual NFL fan or NFL watcher that left-handed quarterbacks were getting more frequently, I guess, placed in the league, that they're more common, but I guess not. I mean, by the way that you're saying.
I think Tua being a starter as a lefty kind of gave that impression to a lot of people. I don't know the exact number either, but I do know that it's pretty rare, just because the ball comes out different. And also, if you're building your offense based off of a lefty, right? You're of the left side now being your strong side or the easier side for your checkdowns to go to. What are the odds you have a left-handed backup too? So now you have to like completely change a lot of stuff about your offense if you don't have a lefty backup, which again, the odds are like very slim that you will. So that's why I feel like they're kind of avoided. But anyways, that's yeah. I just think it's funny.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of one of the left-handed quarterbacks that you mentioned, that I took some notes on, Cameron Ransom for Bethune-Cookman. If you look at the 2 schools that from Florida that joined the SWAC as part of the 2020 realignment, that almost took apart the MEAC, Bethune-Cookman has had a much worse go. But with the help of Ransom, like they had a really resurgent year, going 6-6 this year, their first year of 500 or better since 2019. Then I want to say forgot to check this, of course. Naturally, you got to check who won the Florida Classic, but I think that they did win the Florida Classic. Yeah, they won the Florida Classic for the first time since 2018. Of course, that big game out there at the Citrus Bowl or Camping World Stadium. I still trip up calling it the Citrus Bowl. But Ransom, this is a great way for him to cap off a great career at Bethune-Cookman. Something that's interesting for me is he doesn't make many mistakes, just nine interceptions to 21 touchdowns over the last 2 years. Again, like a guy like Durham, they have similar builds. Ransom ran for 336 rushing yards and 6 touchdowns. But I'd say just given all the context, just the talent differences that exist in these HBCU versus FBS games, he performed quite well, I'd say, in 2 of his appearances. He started the game against Western Michigan in 2024, a Western Michigan team that was bound for the Salute to Veterans Bowl out there in Montgomery. He completed 10 of 14 passes for 116 yards, incredibly accurate, had 16 non-sack rushes for 70 yards. And then against Miami this year, didn't get to watch clips of that game. Looking at the box score, he had 5 carries for 39 yards, which kind of shows that with all the front 7 talent, all the defensive talent and the defensive speed, that's
not bad.
Yeah, 7 yards a carry against a Power 4 school at quarterback. Like it shows that he can adjust the game well. He can adjust to elite talent and elite speed well. So I'm excited to see what they do, how Ransom does in this game. That was really my biggest quarterback. And of course, you got to mention Walker Harris. Walker Harris, man, like he put up some numbers this year: 32 touchdowns, over 3,000 yards. And North Carolina Central just keeps getting these great quarterbacks. Davius Richard, unfortunately, retired recently, but man, he had the world ablaze in 2023. It was fun to watch that year. So great quarterback group. Really excited for this group.
And next year, if it isn't already, the Legacy Bowl needs to be appointment television for you with Andrew Body returning to Bama State after getting offers from some pretty heavy hitter schools. And then combine that with Tony Hull becoming the offensive coordinator there at Bama State. If you don't remember, he was the co-offensive coordinator at Grambling in 2024 when they had that just explosive offense. So Andrew Body returning to Bama State is pretty cool. Moving on to the running backs. Omar, I know we were fighting in the Google Doc to both take this one, but joke's on you. I'm talking about him first. Gerard Sims, the running back from Florida Memorial. Man, if you don't, speaking of guys and the FCS are below in this case, having pretty good success against Power Four schools. When he was at Southern, he had some great runs against LSU. Man, I don't know if you remember that Southern LSU game a few years ago, but man, there were like some plays. It's like, at least in the first quarter, we were like, is LSU an upset alert? And they ended up like pulling, obviously a win off. But no, he had some great plays. My favorite thing about him is that he consistently lines up at receiver. He can high point the ball like a receiver. Omar, you know my catchphrase: if you can't catch, you can't play, as a running back, right, from Maurice Jones-Drew. And not only that, he special teams ace, man. In the SWAC championship as a walk-on freshman, had a blocked punt. Which you just, when we're talking special teams for these guys, which is going to be critical, anyone that we're talking about today, they have to be able to play special teams. Otherwise, they have no shot in the league, right? And we're not just talking like punt returner, kick returner. That's what most people, I think, associate with when we talk special teams. No, like, can you block a punt? That is a game-changing play. That's a game-turning play. And if he can bring that kind of talent and that kind of experience to the next level, then that's great. And then I talked about him as a receiver. If you watch the highlights that the Legacy Bowl posts on Twitter, he already had a really great receiving touchdown where he's just running a go route from the backfield, right? Slipping in between the tackles and caught the ball in the end zone, which usually when you hear of a running back having a receiving touchdown, it's usually not catching the ball in the end zone. So, but Gerard Sims and 5'11", 215. Not small, right? A lot of these guys are like really talented, but maybe too small to make it to the next level. Not the case for Sims at all.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't believe in the whole too small for the next level thing. I believe if you can play, you can play, you can take the hits, right? I mean, so there are a couple guys here that are pretty light.
Omar,
like, I don't believe in that. I don't believe in that.
We have a 17 game season. You need to be able to take some hits. Like, if everything goes perfectly, you think about it. You're playing 21 games. You need to be able to. You need to be durable. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I like Sims a lot, though. Like, I mean, there's a couple of diminutive guys that I have on my list. Just the look at them, the versatility, like at the skills. Sims, the size helps, but man, he's just a gamer. Honestly, I hate to use a cliche term, like you said. If he like anywhere he's on the field, like he will make an impact. And I'm excited for him. I think he's one of the more talented backs or skills. I think in the whole group, honestly, with how he catches the ball. Like you said, how he performs in special teams, because they do special teams reps. They don't block punts, but they do kickoff returns in the Legacy Bowl. I'm excited too, and you just talk about a story like Florida Memorial in general. This is a program that had restarted its football program in 2020, and you mentioned Sims's time at Southern against Florida Memorial in 2022 when Sims was at Southern. Southern had beaten Florida Memorial 86-0. They beat them 86-0, outgained them, if I can do my math right, outgained them by by over 500 yards, 397, 612, outgained them 612-92. And Sims was there, had 84 yards, 2 touchdowns, and now he's there making an impact for just this solid Florida Memorial team that's going to put itself on the map out of the Florida Sun Conference and the NAIA. But man, yeah, I'm excited to see Sims. I think he's the back that I'm most excited for. But this is a great crop of home run hitting backs. Like, something I noticed, like there's a really efficient group of small backs in this, or smaller backs, because they're bigger than me. That are playing in this game. Like Jaquan Kelly was a guy that caught my eye at 5'11", 195 for Winston-Salem State. And he began his career at UNC Pembroke, but he averaged almost 9 yards a carry At Pembroke in 2023, he had 54 carries for 45 yards. Here at Winston-Salem State the past year, he had 96 carries for 650 yards. And so what fascinates me is like with the new kickoff return, with I'm going to call it what it is, with the XFL kickoff return, XFL UFL kickoff return, like I want as a GM or as a coach in my eyes, like I want a guy that fits well between tackles, that has good vision and can see, just see like where the holes are, honestly. Like it's not your conventional kick return where it's like I want a guy that can just blow through everyone on a kickoff return. Like I want a guy like Sims, I want a guy like Kelly, a guy that knows his way through the 2-4-6-8 hole or 2-4-6 holes, 1-3-5-7 holes. A guy that knows his way through that. And like Kelly and Sims are two guys that I'm just really excited to see. And I hope that they get that shot. Just returning kicks or just doing something at the next level. Like, I mean, Sims especially. Like, Sims is just so explosive. He had 200-yard games, both with 10 yards of carry. Like, this is a home run hitter for Florida Memorial.
Sims had 4 games with a reception of at least 25 yards. Like, explosive in the receiving game too. Like, it's not just obviously popped off a lot of runs, but yeah, no. 1,200 all-purpose yards last year. So yeah, pretty special. And as far as to your point, as far as kick returns with this dynamic kickoff rule, right, that we have now in place, you have to be able to navigate traffic and a lot faster than you used to have to, right? You really have to be able to, like you said, see the gaps, and they're already right there. Like you catch the ball and they're already like 25, 30 yards in front of you. So you got to be able to make a split-second decision. So Omar, and how do we get this whole time without really talking about Curtis Allen, man?
Yeah,
Curtis
of course.
Yeah, CIAA Player of the Year, the first ever HBCU player to win the Harlan Hill, as you put in your notes. So, no, excellent. And Chris Mosley declaring for the draft. He's not in this, which is probably.
I don't think so.
He's probably the best HBCU player not playing in this, right?
Oh, he said he declared for the draft, but he might be opting out, honestly. I feel like it might be a situation like Jared Washington where he has enough tape to opt out. Like, but
there's no doubt
he'll be missed.
His talent, right?
Yeah.
So, is it Mosley or Mosley?
Mosley.
Okay, my apologies for botching that. Chris Mosley, yeah. Again, probably the best player, HBCU player, declaring for the draft, not playing in this game. I don't think it's particularly close. Moving on to our receivers, I'm going to go with Armon Harris, the wide receiver from Clark, Atlanta. In my opinion, I think he's maybe the most explosive player in this game. I mean, you watch his highlights, it's just one acrobatic catch after another, including maybe the catch with the best concentration maybe I've ever seen. He's like if you've seen the highlight, you know exactly the one I'm talking about, where he's like one-handing the ball against the corner's like calf while on the ground and like balances it on the back of the defender's leg until he can like pull it in for a touchdown. So it's just absolutely insane. Now he's not a precision route runner guy, but he is a guy that will get open if you scheme him open with mismatches, right? What Clark Atlanta really likes to do is they'll put him deep on the outside in like a spread formation, almost like you see like with Tennessee, how they're outside the numbers to begin, so that there's like no safety help over the top. And if it's one-on-one, man, I don't care what corner is there. Like if he runs a whip route or if he has a good double move, he's going to be open. Transfer from Allen University. Now he is 5'9", 160. So Omar and I are, we're going back and forth already about his size. Can make a difference going into the league. But Omar Harris is going to be a really, really fun player to watch. I hope he has a fantastic game.
Yeah, Armon Harris, like we both had notes on him because you just can't ignore numbers. And like that's also my thing too. It's like in this day and age, where everyone's just so focused on who transfers up in the portal and you pick from that pool. Like, I just don't see a world where you ignore a guy that had 75 catches for 1,004 yards, 14 touchdowns in 2024, 76 catches this year for 946 and 11 touchdowns. And he played the best against the best teams in the SEAC. Like had 15 catches for 225, 4 touchdowns against Kentucky State. Like he's worthy of a shot out there for Clark Atlanta. I mean, I just don't know what else to say. And I think I'm mixing up. I think I'm mixing up the coaches, but I think Terrence Mathis is the head coach at Clark Atlanta. So like he has that mentorship. Mentorship. He has a mentorship there from an elite. Sorry, okay. Never mind. Yep. Terrence Mathis is the head coach at Morehouse. They're both in Atlanta, so
we'll cut that
out. Yeah, we'll keep it. We'll keep it.
Yeah, no, he's I mean, very like Kadarius Toney-esque, right? As a Florida guy, like that's a little bit of what I saw him, especially once he has the ball in his hands, just kind of how he's able to make some double moves, able to break some ankles. Just the acrobatic catches. Now he like with those and they're really flashy, but sometimes he will jump up to get the ball when he doesn't have to jump up. Just keep your feet on the ground and like call it in, man. But it's like the athleticism is like so there. And maybe it just looks even more impressive on red turf. I don't know who doesn't love the Clark Atlanta red turf. But yeah, no, really hope that he has a great game because we've seen it already at that level. But if he's able to go against like upper talent, right? They didn't play too many FCS teams, if I remember correctly. So hopefully able to show against some higher end talent.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and there's plenty of receivers like Armon Harris. This receiver class in this year's HBCU Legacy Bowl, very slot receiver heavy. You don't see many big targets. One big target that I briefly made notes on was Kentucky State's. Scrolling up here, using my phone on this, but Kentucky State's John McCall. John McCall, huge target, 6'3", 200, 10 touchdowns and 57 catches. Like that's the type of ball skills that translate to any level, honestly. And talking about a resurgent team in Kentucky State making their first playoff appearance in a while. As an at-large in the SEAC. I mean, that's a program that had tried everything, literally almost everything to, trying to see if it would stick. Like they hired John L. Smith, the old longtime FBS coach. They ran triple option. If you remember from way back, we would talk a lot about Brent Silv, running the fullback position quite well out there for their triple option. Made the playoffs. John McCall is a big part of that. Other receivers too, and this is more like a college all-star game. The representing programs that kind of that don't really have that have had kind of hard goes at it. So you look at Mississippi Valley State's Cameron Nelson. I'm having to scroll my notes too and everything. Cameron Nelson, who had 37 catches for 409 yards and 4 touchdowns for Mississippi Valley State, had 12 catches for 124 yards against Bethune-Cookman. But I look at Nelson, I think of the performance in the ill-fated HBCU Pigskin Showdown in 2022. And just given the circumstances that, for those of you that remember the game, it reminds me of Ja'Cory Rankin, who caught 7 passes for 98 yards and a touchdown. And, in front of a national television audience on CNBC and Peacock. I mean, this is just a great opportunity because Mississippi Valley State is one of the most under-resourced programs in the entire in Division I, FBS or FCS. And it's just a great moment in the sun for the Delta Devils just to have this in the HBC Legacy Bowl, have a receiver represent them. Same sentiment too somewhat for Texas Southern as they have 2 players, including one of them, Trenton Leary. And Trenton Leary is a guy, Jackson, again, like I go back and forth on like people being too small. Like Trenton Leary is listed as 55 pounds, 5'9", 155 pounds by Texas Southern. But he's a guy that does it all, had over 80 career catches, about 10 yards a catch, ran the ball 11 times in his career, had a 28-yard rushing touchdown for the Tigers. He returned kicks as well, had a 45-yard and a 36-yard kick return, 16 career kick returns, 271 yards, and returning punts, 10 punt returns for 130, had a 47-yard punt return this year. Like, again, with Leary, like, I think this is a guy that is elusive. I think his size works to his advantage with how slippery he is. So I'm excited to see the ways that Team Robinson gets him the ball. Honestly, I mean, with just with how slippery he is, like whether they run the ball with him because he has experience running the ball. So I'm excited to see what gimmicks they have with Trenton Leary, for Team Robinson.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And not only a bunch of great receivers, but some great tight ends. So I will move on into our tight end room. One of the guys that I really wanted to highlight, Caden Davis, the tight end from Fayetteville State. Man, what a journey he's had. If you're not familiar, he signed on to Fayetteville State as a quarterback and then became a running back when they asked him to, and then became a tight end. One thing that I wanted to point out, I forget the exact quote, but it's from George Kittle. He's talking about how like tight ends really need to be able to read the half of the field that they're lining up on like a quarterback. And you don't see too many guys go into the league with these position changes and then make a huge difference, except I feel like for a lot of multiple quarterbacks turn tight ends. You have Tyree Jackson from Buffalo. You have Felipe Franks, obviously from Florida. Logan Thomas has been a huge contributor for the Commanders. All former quarterbacks turn tight ends once they get to the league, or right before possibly. So now I am curious to see like where he lines up. Obviously, he's listed as a tight end, but there was a game this year where, like for Fayetteville State, he lined up at 26 snaps at slot receiver and only 4 as an actual tight end. So I'm curious, like, do they use him as a slot receiver? They'll also use him in Wildcat sometimes, where it's basically like quarterback power, but instead it's like a 6'4", 250-pound tight end that's running straight at you. So but yeah, Caden Davis, one guy to watch out for. And then Omar, I think you had a couple more guys you want to talk about. He's on Team Gaither, but I think your guys were on Team Robinson, right?
Yeah, so I just want to talk about, well, first just talk about your point with converted quarterbacks, converted running backs, and whatnot to tight end. I think you're starting to see that more with guys like Tyler Warren just making a difference in college and having a big role for the Colts.
Yeah, I forgot about Tyler. How did I not mention Tyler Warren? Yeah,
yeah. It's easy because it's a lot of guys, even in this draft process, like Evan Svoboda for Wyoming, Hula Bowl guy. He only caught 11 passes for Wyoming this year. But that's a guy that got a lot of like buzz from scouts at the Hula Bowl, guy who played quarterback. So I think more pro scouts are coming around and looking for like those type of guys that have the tangibles athletically, but also kind of like that perspective as a quarterback. Svoboda, on another note, like I always make fun of him because watching the Air Force game, in my eyes, he's the guy with the neck roll that threw an interception at the goal line. Like Wyoming would have won that game if they didn't let a guy with a neck roll throw a pass, but that guy was Svoboda, a former quarterback. But it's just a fun joke that I've mentioned before. But my tight end too is someone that as I watch NFL casually, like one of the people that stand out in the league to me is Darnell Washington, 6'7", 300 pounds, listed as 265, but plays closer catches for 259 yards and 3 touchdowns. But he had his best performance against the best competition in the SWAC, or some of the best or one of the best teams in the SWAC in Jackson State with 5 catches for 96 yards. And I'm really interested to see if a team can get Knighton and kind of mold him and use him the way that the Steelers used Darnell Washington, just to get him in space against a defensive back. Because I don't care what school you're from, I'm taking a 280-pound tight end over a 190, 200-pound cornerback. So like I'm really interested to see how Knighton gets used in this game, and if any pro scouts just take a flyer on Knighton just with his size, because you can't defeat size with a lot of these guys.
No, you can't. No, absolutely. And they're like, one thing that struck me, just look at, it's one nice thing that I do like about this is they list the height, weight for all these guys, albeit pre-combine, but pre-HBCU combine, but like none of the tight ends are small. Like a lot of the guys, they aren't small, but like the shortest tight end on these rosters is 6'2". Like that's maybe slightly undersized, like for a tight end, right? But like that's not like, you don't have any like 6-foot tight ends trotting out there. And I think the lightest weight is 225 with Dupree Fuller from Southern. So that's one nice thing that's like all these guys, that's not going to be a knock against them, right? So for Knighton, Kadovas Knighton, one thing that I'm curious to see when he does get measured is just his wingspan, right? Because he's 6'2", but like he does not look 6'2". His arms don't look proportionate. Like they're so long, and really gives him a wider radius than probably most 6'2" tight ends in the league have. So I'm curious to see when we do have those listed results what his wingspan is. But moving on to our offensive linemen, Omar, there are a couple guys that I really want to highlight because there's a lot of names here, and we're not going to get through even close to them all. But there are some guys that maybe had a lot of preseason hype that we're hoping that can preseason hype. And I'm not going to say their season was a letdown, but it's like maybe they can get back on the right track with Bruno Onwuzor. I'm pro on Onwuzor. I think I'm saying that right. The hype was that it was 6'8", 320, right? As a tackle. That is absurd. That is elite size. And he's a better, one AFC scout said preseason, better athlete than Carson Vincent, but not as polished. And I feel like I saw a few things about him preseason, and then I just haven't seen, at least in like more from an NFL like scouting perspective, I just haven't seen as much as I feel like I saw at least 2 articles that talked about him the preseason. So hoping he has a really strong showing, because at 6'8", 320, like we were just talking about for tight ends, that kind of size just cannot be ignored. And then we have guys on the opposite end that I don't remember. Ashton Grable, I remember getting a little bit of preseason hype, but I mean, he has been very good this year for Florida A&M, the right guard. Now, he has played right guard exclusively this past year, but he's also played tackle in the past. He's learning center apparently too. So it's like any guy that you can have like that can play all over the offensive line is just going to be such a huge asset. So hopefully he has a fantastic game. And then we have a couple other guys I wanted to mention at least. Quentin Ross, another guy where he is I forget what he's listed. Or I don't think he's listed either one for the game, but he played like 300 snaps at center and like 260 at right guard this year. But the thing with Team Robinson, they already have like 3 listed centers with Jeremiah Frazier from Bama State, Christian Loving from Bethune-Cookman, and then Tramel Brown from Alcorn State. So I assume that since they already have 3 centers on the roster, even though that's mostly what he played in college, they're probably going to play him as a guard. But curious to see how Quentin Ross does. And then we have guys like I just mentioned, Christian Loving. He played edge and tight end in high school, right? Who knows? Like if he's, if maybe his agent wants him to trim some weight and try going back to edge or something. I don't know. Like if there's a time to test out these things, it's All-Star game. So, and you really have to dive into I have to go in deep into PFF to like find a lot of times like the exact position that some of these guys place. So it's impossible to keep track. And some for the smaller HBCUs, they don't even track every game like they do a lot of the FCS guys. So I'm curious to see like for one of them, Keith Chambliss, I found out he played right guard from like a highlight on Twitter, right? So like I'm just curious to see where a lot of these guys, not only how they perform, but where they line up. Oh, on mute, Omar.
Yeah, you mentioned Chambliss. Chambliss is a guy that I looked at just from a college perspective on Livingstone. They've only had 1 winning season since 2015. Played there in 2024 for that 1 winning season that happened in the last decade or so. This year they went 5-5. Not a program that gets much exposure in the CIAA, so that's good to see. But also, too, I look at the size of some of these guys, and I just feel like this has to translate. Like you said, like Bruno Onwuzor, 6'8", 320. The guy that opened my eyes is Cameron Smith, 354 pounds, 6'7". Now, I don't know if that's a healthy weight for a tackle. I don't know if that's too heavy for pro scouts, but that is, for me, just looking at that number, that is an imposing individual that someone has to have a place for. Whether he's not quick enough to be on the edge at left tackle and protect a blind side, I can see him being a right tackle and being a great pass protector with that size.
Well, a better weight you could argue is, just go on the other side for our the other team in this game, Cesar Reyes, right? The transfer from USF now at Howard. He's 6'7", 310, and 310 is like the perfect weight for a tackle, right? And 6'7" is slightly above average in height. So there are plenty of guys that just like you said, the size just can't be ignored.
Exactly. Yeah, like I mean, we'll see though. I know the line play kind of gets overshadowed in these All-Star games unless it's like in the drills. But I mean, maybe if you rewatch it and like you'll see who stands out. But I'm really interested to see because it's like size is not an issue with any of these guys.
Omar, wouldn't get overshadowed that much if they actually wore the helmet of their respective university. And then I could, especially from the TV copy, see a lot easier what player it actually is. I don't have to watch not the all 22, but the behind the ball, the end zone game. So just throwing that out there.
Yep. One day, Jackson. One day, Rydell will subsist.
We'll move on to our defensive linemen. This is maybe, in my opinion, I think maybe the talent is deepest on the defensive line. Correct me if I'm wrong, Omar, but that's my opinion at least. You just have, and it's a little unfair that although we have a lot of deep talent, maybe the two best edge rushers in this game are both on Team Robinson in Givens and Ivory, right? So, well, I'll start off with them. So I'll start off with Kelby Givens. We've talked about him plenty of times on the pod, the edge rusher from Southern. Had 18 and a half tackles for loss this year, including 9.5 sacks. That's just ridiculous. That is carrying on the legacy of Southern edge rushers that we've seen in the past. And then Quincy Ivory, the edge from Jackson State. One of those guys, former quarterback turned edge rusher. And he's had a bit of a journey. He transferred from Mississippi Valley State to Florida and then to Jackson State. And he's another guy, 71 tackles this year, which is just ridiculous production for an edge rusher, 6 sacks, 1 interception. So, and then there's one of my favorite players on here. I'm going to the other side now, Team Gaither, James Stewart from Tennessee State. Man, he had this year's 17 and a half tackles for losses with 6 sacks. He's a transfer from Memphis. He was a 3-star recruit coming out of high school. So, like, not a nobody, right? Like, people knew who he was going into Memphis. We talked a little bit about coaching and mentorship earlier in the pod. Omar, remember the defensive coordinator at Tennessee State last year was Greg Williams, who's not only been an NFL head coach, he's been a Super Bowl winning defensive coordinator.
What, Bounty Man? Bounty Man was a...
Wow. You had to bring it up, not me. But I mean, he's coached Javon Curse and Aaron Donald more recently, right? So that's the kind of hopefully mentorship that we're seeing it from an X's and O's standpoint, not from a bounty standpoint.
Yeah, wow. I mean, also too, I have not forgotten about that 2019 or 2018 Jets Raiders game where he inexplicably blitzed I think with 20 seconds to go, and Derek Carr just saw right through it. Yeah, we all know that play.
Lost that game. Yeah.
We all know that play, but yeah, like I'm honestly, and on both sides too, like there's just so much talent on the edge. Like my guy that really opened like my eyes was from Benedict, Israel and Mokocha, which there's no pronunciation guide. Shame on you, Benedict College, but oh well, we'll get past that. You got to have that, whoever the SID is. But honestly, you look at these stats. Like I'm the guy again. Like the numbers. Like people deserve a chance just based on the numbers alone. I mean, Emokocha had 26 tackles for a loss this past year, 6'2", 250. He has the size of a good edge rusher. 26 tackles for loss, 12 sacks last year, 9 and 14 this past year. Plus, you got to love a guy that's honest. You look at his page and you ask him why he chose Benedict College, and what is his answer? Free education. Gotta love an honest guy, I mean, he's not sugarcoating. He's not there to create a soundbite. He's not the anti-Dan Lanning. He's not there for clicks. He's there just to get sacks. And so I'm really excited to see what Emokocha does against FCS talent at these tackle positions. But man, like you can't lie with stats like that. Like that's a guy that has the size, the intangibles, the speed just to be a good pass rusher in at the next level.
And one thing that we and I'm guilty of this now too, we give so much attention to Givens and Ivory. Who's another guy that's on that Team Robinson squad that's just an absolute beast at edge rusher? Bryce Cage from Grambling State, man. No one had more tackles for loss in the run game among SWAC edge rushers than him. No one had a higher pressure rate than him at almost 17%. And no one had more pressures than him. So Bryce Cage, just an absolute beast that's maybe getting overshadowed by, again, Givens and Ivory, just the hype that they're getting. But Bryce Cage, another name to watch out for.
Exactly. And another guy that I wanted to shout out to, Texas Southern's Michael Akins had a solid career out there for the Tigers. He had 8.5 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks his past year, 27 career tackles for loss. He's good at getting his hands up too, had 2 pass breakups. But you look at Texas Southern, a program that has only 4 SWAC championships in their entire existence, 2 Black College National Championships, and they haven't won the SWAC since 2010. This is the type of game that, this is the type of school that is proud. I mean, all schools are proud to have HBCU Legacy Bowl participants, but this is, I think, why these All-Star games are great. It just gives a silver lining to programs like this to see their guys just, get a shot at the next level, just to celebrate their careers. So Akins is another guy. He's got the same build as Nwakocha, 6'2", 255. So I'm interested to see him battle it out with, the guys on Team Gaither.
And don't be surprised if Michael Luntz has a standout game from South Carolina State. I'm not going to get into the stats or X's and O's, but he's a transfer from Tulane, so a little bit of a homecoming for Michael Luntz. So don't be surprised if he goes back on there on a very familiar field. It makes a couple plays for old time's sake. But we'll move on to one more guy that, like, some of these guys, there's only like so many highlights, there's only like, there's like just a couple of Instagram reels worth of like, tape on them, right? So sometimes you have to go onto these school websites and like read the bio and just hope that you'll find something that you can mention. One guy that I just love this, Tony Roundtree, the interior defensive lineman from Savannah State that's going to be playing for Team Robinson. Loves playing tennis and golf. Not something you hear every day from a defensive lineman. And his unique talents, when asked, are drawing and sleeping. Like, that tells me, like, this is a strategic man, but like very instinctive if he's playing tennis for fun, right? Like, you have to be a very instinctive guy to do that. And pretty productive in 9 games played at 32 tackles, 17 TFLs, a forced fumble. So Tony Roundtree, just we've given a ton of love to these edge rushers, but maybe, let's throw a bone to the interior defensive lineman too. So moving on to our linebackers, I think that how do I put this? I think that maybe the best player or most likely to get drafted is playing in the linebacker room, and whoever linebacker LB2 is in this game, I don't think they're close to Eric Hunter, the linebacker from Morgan State. Had 102 total tackles, 14 tackles for loss, including 4 sacks, 5 quarterback hurries, and 3 forced fumbles. Baldinger, right? We all love watching his videos on Instagram and just talk about he called it was the Hula Bowl, right? On YouTube from his phone. Yeah, we love a man that does that. A quote, big, long, rangy linebacker that is hungry for an NFL shot. He's going to test very well. Put him on your radar. And then another NFC scout said that he had an incredible week of practice. Even how he was from day 1 to today, he's shown a lot out there. He's going to be really busy for the next few months. He's going to get a lot more looks in our building for sure. Another NFL scout said his range and ability to cover ground stand out. In an interview, when asked what he's most comfortable with as a linebacker, he says comfortable all over, and talked about how he's played in a 4-2-5 defense. He's played in a 3-4 defense. He's blitzed a lot. He's been asked to do man-to-man against running backs, man-to-man against tight ends. So, like, this is a guy that's played all over the field. He's had production every scheme that he's played in. Maybe the only concern is the shoulder injury that was pretty bad from 2024, although obviously if you have 102 tackles the year after, you've recovered from that. But any major injury history is always something to keep in your back pocket. But Eric Hunter from Morgan State had to rep just a phenomenal linebacker that I hope he has a great game, because I think that he could. We haven't had a round from for HBCUs. We haven't had a guy taken as early as the 4th round since 2022 with Joshua Williams and Jacoby Durant, who we mentioned earlier. Everyone since then has been round 6 or round 5 or later, excuse me. So I think he's a guy that I'm hoping we can, if he keeps testing very well, hopefully he can climb all the way up to round 4.
Yeah, and I know the hype on Hunter is great. Like, he impressed at the American Bowl. I know we talked about him before season of the Shrine Bowl 1000. Like, this is the guy that that knows how to quarterback a defense, because we know that Morgan State plays tough defense. We know that that's a program, that just trademarks itself on tough play, tough defense. I'm intrigued by the 6'4" size too. Like him being 6'4" at linebacker, and like you said, covering, doing man-to-man coverage. Like he's a stud at coverage too. So I'm excited. I'm sure NFL Network has been talking about Eric Hunter all week. I've seen a couple tweets about him being a guy that has stood out in practices, but Eric Hunter is a great LB1 in this game, great middle linebacker. But beyond the edges, the middle linebacker core is just really strong. I mean, a guy that I was really impressed with was Central State's lone representative out there, the Marauders in the SEAC out there in Ohio. And Dominique Davis is a bit small for a linebacker. And this is the one time I'll say it, because he's 5'11", 204, typically a defensive back size, defensive back build, but he has such a knack for getting in the backfield. 17 and a half tackles for loss the previous year, 17 and a half tackles for loss in 2023, 16 and a half tackles for loss this past year. Might be mixing those two up, but he also had 4 interceptions this past year. So this is a playmaker. You talk about someone that's good in coverage. Dominique Davis is great in coverage. He has a knack for getting in the backfield. This is the guy that I think, if he puts on a little bit of weight, I really think that he can reminds me of a bit of a Zach Thomas, honestly. More undersized linebacker, shorter, but just a nose for the football with added coverage skills too. So I'm excited about Davis too. And then I have to shout out to another program with one representative, a lone representative in this game. We got Chris Calhoun III from Elizabeth City State, another smaller linebacker at 6'1", 225 pounds. He had 70 tackles and 3.5 tackles for loss this past year. Good in the pass rush. He had two quarterback hurries against Hampton with 6 tackles. But Elizabeth City State, they are a perennial bottom dweller in the CIAA. They haven't had a winning season since, I think, 2014, 2012. This is the program whose most well-known pro product played in the USFL. You got Johnny Walton, got a little Johnny Walton mention out there. 2-time 3,500-plus yard passer in the original USFL. I don't want Steve Young. I don't want Jim Kelly. I want John Walton if I'm talking about a great quarterback in the USFL. But again, another long-suffering program that gets to shine on the national stage. Elizabeth City State has only one CIAA title, and that came in 1971. So I'm excited to see what Calhoun does. Hopefully he gets a few tackles, gets some good camera time for the great people out there at Elizabeth City State.
Now I did it. Now I muted myself. Yeah, we love a good Elizabeth City State mention. We'll move on into our next to last position group with the defensive backs. The first guy that I wanted to talk about was Jadon J.C. Carter. Now he's a safety / slot corner also for Morgan State. Now he's listed as a safety. But he played predominantly at slot corner, had almost 300 snaps at slot corner, then another 220 snaps at free safety, another 150 at box safety, 55 tackles for 7.5 tackles for loss last year, 2 interceptions and 3 forced fumbles. And we talk about special teams as much as we can on this for these guys. Omar, he had a game-winning blocked field goal, returned 94 yards for a touchdown against Miles College this year. So, and he's also a former basketball and track star in high school. So just a guy that you really guy that can play all over the defensive backfield and has a lot of proven production in 2 phases of the game.
Yeah, there's a couple defensive backs that I like for in this game. Darius Stokes from Florida Memorial. Once again, we're mentioning Florida Memorial a lot. He had 7 pass breakups, 3 interceptions this past year. Also caught 3 passes in 2023 while making 20 tackles. He's Florida Memorial's answer to Travis Hunter. So maybe call him the Florida Memorial Travis Hunter. But also, even more so, Jackson, I'm really fascinated to see how Darnell Stevens does in this game and in the draft process, because this is the guy that had 23 pass breakups in 2025, 10 career interceptions. This is the guy that knows his way through coverage. He might be, honestly, this might be a hot take. I think he's a better defensive back prospect than Jared Washington. Just looking at that, because you can't fight 23 pass breakups. This is the guy that was proven again and again and again and has the ball skills. is able to stay with receivers. So I really hope that Stevens gets a good look during this draft process, because again, like, you can't fight with the numbers on the paper no matter what school someone goes to. And Fort Valley State is no stranger to producing pro talent. If you're a Packers fan, you know about Emmanuel Wilson who played in I think the final NFLPA Collegiate Bowl, and of course the HBCU Legacy Bowl. Like, these guys that come from the SEAC, that come from the CIAA, they're no joke. And I mean, there's plenty of pro teams, fans of pro teams like the Chiefs with Josh Williams, the Packers with Emmanuel Wilson, that can testify to that. So I'm really hoping that Darnell Stevens just adds to that, because man, like, you talk about Stevens Island, like, he's a real deal.
Absolutely, Darnell Stevens. And then another guy, Darnell Stevens is playing for Team Robinson. Another guy that I want to highlight for Team Robinson is Carlos Donovan Jr., the corner from Morehouse. He's had, according to Gerald Huggins, which, if you know HBCU ball, of course you know Gerald Huggins. He has had, according to him, the best 2 practices this week of any defensive back. And he's stacking that on top of a very productive season where he had 26 total tackles, 2 tackles for loss, a fumble recovery, 3 pass breakups, and a kick blocked. Another guy with a block kick. And then he transferred from Louisiana Tech. So, like, that's always one thing that, like, you don't love to see a guy going from, FBS and then transferring down to FCS. But while he was at Louisiana Tech, he didn't see action, but he did win the Conference USA Commissioner's Honor Roll, and he was an academic medalist, which, so smart guy. I know I was not an academic medalist, so pretty smart dude, and shows those skills in the backfield, defensive backfield. So.
Yeah, you like a guy that's brainy, a guy that has a good high football and regular IQ too. So definitely a plus.
I'm gonna steal that, high football and regular IQ.
Yeah. I mean, you know, Morehouse is a great school. I mean, Morehouse is one of the Black Ivies. I mean, one of their alumni, John David Washington, great actor, had a cup of coffee in NFL Europe. So Morehouse, I'm surprised they only have 1 representative though. Honestly, I think it's been tough sledding for Morehouse. Honestly, like, I can't tell you last time they had a winning season. It's just generally tough, just with the academic restrictions that they have relative to the other teams in their conference in the SEAC. But I hope that they can be resurgent soon, and hopefully one day beat Howard, for goodness sake. It's beginning to look like it's going to be a very long time until they beat Howard, every year at MetLife Stadium.
And one corner, if you're just listening to this to maybe prepare for HBCU players going into the NFL draft and not just for this Legacy Bowl. One guy, Gerard Washington from South Carolina State, played in the East-West Shrine Bowl. Cannot find him. I think he was originally scheduled to play in the Legacy Bowl, but I cannot find him on either roster. So another name to be looking for in the draft process, Gerard Washington. Omar, that wraps up 2 phases of 3 of football. Do you have any special teamers you want to shout out?
Yeah, absolutely. I got Marco Jovicic, and I love Mississippi Valley State. I love the underdogs and perennial underdogs and the SWAC and of the FCS football. I mean, Marco Jovicic, looking at Jason Myers, right? You can kind of see a similar career path for Jovicic. Let me see this pronunciation guide. If I'm butchering it on accident, no pronunciation guide. Shame on you, Mississippi Valley State. It's okay. And I know you're underfunded. But Jovicic is a guy that has honed his craft after coming from junior college. And I love the junior college stories. There's a few junior college transfers. The tight end from Southern that's playing this game was a junior college transfer. It's really a lost source of players in the portal age, but still very, very useful. Jovicic came from a junior college, from a community college. His first year at Mississippi Valley State was tough. Went 4 for 9. Had 2 kicks blocked had 2 kicks blocked in his first year at Mississippi Valley State. But night and day this year, he was truly one of the best players, one of the best kickers in all Black college football. Went 14 for 17. 56-yard field goal long and only 1 kick blocked. So that means I think that 1 kick might have been a breakdown in blocking and not his own fault. But that means if that's the case, just 2 kicks where he was off the mark, a 56-yarder. And even in his first year, his junior year at Mississippi Valley State, you could see that the leg talent was there. He had a 51-yarder. And that just makes me think where it's like, if there's any place where in this day and age where scouts won't look down upon a guy that stays at an FCS or Division II, Division III, NAIA, you name it, it's the kicker position. Because you can't beat leg talent, right? And that's where Jason Myers comes in. You have a guy that played at Marist, non-scholarship football in the Pioneer Football League. He went straight to the Arena Football League, played there a couple of years, got a chance, got a cup of coffee with, I think, the Jaguars, and then just kept going, kept moving up until he found his place, his home as a Seahawk. And you saw him almost win Super Bowl MVP at kicker, which I think we all thought he should have, honestly. The NFL writers are dead wrong. I mean, they're dead wrong for not making Myers the MVP, but Jovicic is a guy that has clear leg talent. He just needs a chance. He just needs when one of the kickers in this league, one of the 32 kickers in this league goes down with injury, Jovicic should be one of the first calls because he's got the leg talent, and it's not really altitude aided. Like Mississippi is not a high altitude state. The SWAC is not a high altitude conference environment. So that the leg talent's there. Just imagine what he could do at Denver. What else is another high altitude? I can't think of U.S. geography right now, but Jovicic making Mississippi Valley State proud. He's going to be front and center for the Delta Devils, and they've had a past couple of years. So always got a soft spot for the Delta Devils, and I'm hoping Jovicic just gets a chance to the next level.
Absolutely. And, I would argue, by the way, going back to this real quick, my Super Bowl MVP vote was Christian Gonzalez. He was the only reason that game wasn't over in the first quarter. I'm just saying. But obviously I knew he would not win when I voted for him, but I was like, and I was pulling for Seattle. I was like, this guy's playing out of his mind. Yes. So Marco might not even be the best kicker playing in this game too. I would argue Andrew Brown, the fourth, kicked 353 plus yard field goals in a single game and already in practice weekend. It looks like fairly windy from the clips that I've seen. Already booming field goals from the middle of the Green Wave logo, which is at minimum a 60 yarder. So Andrew Brown, the fourth, excellent kicker. And we got to give a love to at least one punter, Elliot Janish, the punter from South Carolina State. Omar, we love South Carolina State punters on this podcast. He's a transfer from Utah. He had 23 punts, averaging 43.8 yards a punt, 2 touchbacks, 9 of those inside the 20, which is just ridiculous, and 4 50-plus yard punts. So I know 23 punts is a low sample size, but just 9 inside the 20 is ridiculous. So.
Yeah, honestly, South Carolina State, our Giannis gets overshadowed by the wealth of talent that they have at South Carolina State. The most consistent program in the MEAC and one of the most consistent programs in Black college football in general. I mean, Giannis, I'm interested too. Just him being from Utah. Is he Australian or is he not Australian?
I would be lying if I said I knew.
Okay, I was just wondering because I thought Utah naturally an Australian punter, but just to belabor the point, right? In terms of just being found where you're at. Jamie Gillen, the former punter, the punter for the Giants, Arkansas Pine Bluff alum, right? Undrafted, and he's going strong still as a punter. So it's like, man, if there is a guy that will stand out and that will end up doing good stuff, it's probably one of the specialists too. But that's everything I have, Jackson. Do you have anything else to add before we sign off?
I don't, Omar. I'm sure you're just excited to watch the NFL Combine the following weekend as you are the Legacy Bowl.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, I think I'll be the only one watching that. It'll just be me and Lila. But yeah, excited for this. Sorry, you hear Lila's alarm going off. It's a whole thing. But anyways, yes, excited for this game. Hopefully we get some scouts with some eyes on these guys. And I know no combine invites, but hopefully 1 or 2 draftees. So
yeah, you never know with how much opt-outs happen these days. You might have an opt-out that slides a guy in. But until next time, everyone, thank you for listening, for joining, for watching. Tune into the HBCU Legacy Bowl. It's part of a dying breed of game. I mean, we're losing these all-star games left and right, but these games are important to the fan bases. They're important for fans, for traveling fans, and for these players. So support this game. Support, honestly, all all-star games. And until next time, everyone, peace, love, and soul in the Burger Popper. Lord bless you, Lord keep you, make his face shine upon you, and be gracious to you. Thank you.